lecture enthusiastically. Just look at the major points to be discussed today. First and the foremost point we are going to discuss today is Albert wants a reference from his mathematics teacher. And the second main point, Einstein's interaction with Mr. Koch, his mathematics teacher. And third point, will be able to get medical certificate and he shows that certificate to Yuri, his cousin. So these are the four main points we are going to discuss it today. Now just start it immediately. So we had done up to this particular point, that is, I will ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work and perhaps that will be enough. So here Einstein wanted to highlight the basic point that he would be able to get admission in college by using reference that will be given to him by his maths teacher, Mr. Koch. I've learned all the maths they teach at school and a bit more. Highlighted that particular point that he is with the knowledge of every topic of maths so far as his syllabus is concerned, and moreover able to learn more than syllabus even. He wanted to highlight that particular point. He had added when Dr. V looked doubtful. So you will have to look at this particular point. That while he was telling that particular point, Dr. V was doubtful. Doubtful, you are able to look at the things. He was not certain whether he would be able to get admission in college or not. तो बेटे यहाँ पे आइंस्टाइन हाईलाइट कर रहा है कि उसके मैथ्स के टीचर उसको रेफरेंस लेटर दे देंगे पॉजिटिव, क्योंकि उसका मैथ्स अच्छा है. So he was interested in maths and science. Science was not a part of curriculum of that particular German school, but maths was his favorite subject. So automatically he wants to highlight that particular point that he would be able to get admission. But Dr. Wheel was not sure about that. So I think we are able to understand this paragraph. There is no doubt in that. Well, it's up to you, he said. I doubt if it will come off, but I can see you are not doing yourself or anyone else much good by staying here. How long would you like me to say you should stay away from school? Would 6 months be all right? Just look at this particular paragraph. Here, Dr. Wheel is highlighting very fine point. It's highlighting that he is wasting his time and energy. He's highlighting that particular point that Einstein is wasting his time and energy. So again, he was adding to that particular point that how long would he like him to say that he should stay away from school. Here he wants to ask Einstein that what's the duration of leave he wanted to apply. He wants to apply. You are able to highlight the explanation in present tense also and in past tense also. So it is up to you. But you should be able to understand each and every point. Would 6 months be all right? Just look at the sentence added by Dr. Veer. Just inquiring whether 6 months be okay. तो बेटे इस पैराग्राफ में डॉक्टर व्हील आइंस्टाइन से कह रहे हैं कि आइंस्टाइन तेरा यहाँ रहने का कोई फायदा तो है नहीं, ना तो तू अपने लिए कुछ, यानी कि यहाँ ये पॉइंट हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं डॉक्टर व्हील कि यहाँ टाइम और एनर्जी अपनी यहाँ वेस्ट कर रहा है. और नेक्स्ट स्टेप में वो कहते हैं कि कितने टाइम की लीव चाहिए तुझे, तो फिर खुद ही वो ऐड करते हैं कि 6 मंथ्स ठीक रहेगी. Just look at the next reply of Einstein. This is very kind of you. Wanted to just avail leave of 6 months. He wanted to avail leave of 6 months, so that is why he was very satisfied to just look at the point or listen the point highlighted by Dr. V. तो यहाँ पे वो कह रहे हैं कि this is very kind of you, means that he was just taking that particular favor in positive sense of term. कहते ये तो आपकी बहुत पॉजिटिविटी होगी डॉक्टर साहब अगर मुझे आप 6 months की लीव का मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट बना के दे दो. I think there is no doubt in that. It's nothing. I have only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Here you are. Dr. Will handed him the certificate and the best of luck. Just look at the action taken by Dr. Will here, highlighting that it's nothing. He was just taking that particular point in a very liberal way. यानी कि जो वो कह रहे थे कि मैं 6 months की लीव के लिए fictitious medical certificate issue कर दूंगा, कहते हैं कुछ नहीं है आइंस्टाइन ये. I have only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Just wanted to highlight that particular point that he was a student a few days back. Yani ki at the beginning of the chapter, dear students, you have studied that Dr. Wheel had passed his medical degree recently. तो यहाँ इसलिए वो कह रहे हैं कि मैं भी कुछ दिन पहले स्टूडेंट ही था. सो आई नो हाउ यू फील. कहते हैं कि मैं ऑब्जर्व कर सकता हूँ आइंस्टाइन कैसी फीलिंग तेरी इस टाइम होगी. यानी कि he wanted to highlight that he might be very positive to look at the favorable response from the side of Dr. Wheel, yani issuing of medical certificate. Here you are. Dr. Wheel handed him the medical certificate. Now, after this particular dialogue, Dr. Wheel had given him the medical certificate and he also wished good luck for his bright future. I think you are crystal clear so far as this paragraph is concerned. There is no doubt in that. Now just look at the next. Inverted commas, how much dash dash dash, then inverted commas are closed. No interrogation, nothing. I think it is full stop. Third dot is just like full stop. Basically, it should be interrogative. So here, Einstein wanted to inquire the amount doctor wants for issuing that medical certificate. कि डॉक्टर साहब फीस कितनी है. He wanted to just inquire about his charges, Dr. Wheel's charges for issuing that medical certificate. कि कितने पैसे दूं डॉक्टर साहब. He wanted to highlight that particular point. Just look at the reply of Dr. Wheel. Again inverted commas, nothing. Then comma. If you have anything to spare, invite Yuri to a meal. He is a good friend of mine and yours too, I think. Then commas are closed after comma, inverted commas are closed. So now just look at the reply of Dr. Wheel. He was highlighting that particular point that he did not in the requirement of any fee. He wanted to highlight that particular point. Then you will have to look at the next. तो यहाँ पे डॉक्टर व्हील कह रहे हैं कि मुझे कोई भी फी की जरूरत नहीं है, कोई चार्जेस मुझे नहीं चाहिए. If you have anything to spare, again he was adding to that particular point that Einstein, if you have saved money, yani here Dr. Einstein, the doctor was just highlighting Einstein that if he can spare a little bit coins or little bit money, he could invite Yuri to a meal. तो कहते हैं कि वो यूरी को यानी पार्टी या मील के लिए इनवाइट कर सकता है. जैसे lunch के लिए या dinner के लिए, you will have to highlight the meaning of meal here. Meal here you have to look. He's a good friend of mine and yours too, I think. He wanted to highlight the point that uh, he means Yuri is a good friend of mine. यहाँ डॉक्टर व्हील कह रहे हैं कि यूरी आपका भी एक अच्छा दोस्त है और मेरा भी, आई थिंक. तो यहाँ पे डॉक्टर व्हील कह रहे हैं कि मुझे कोई चार्जेस नहीं चाहिए, अगर तो कोई फेवर दे सकता है तो हम एक पार्टी कर दे, हल्की सी छोटी सी ट्रीट दे दे. यानी कि यू हैव टू लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट. कहते हैं उस पार्टी में यूरी को भी बुला लियो क्योंकि वो तेरा भी दोस्त है और मेरा भी. I think you are clear so far as this particular response or reply of Dr. Will is concerned. Now just look at the next. Albert had no money to spare, but he pretended he had and took Yuri out to supper. Just look at this particular point. So I have already announced that Albert belonged to a lower middle class family. Financial status of his father was not up to mark. So that is why he was not able to spare money. Albert had no money to spare. I think you are clear so far as this particular sentence is concerned, so far as these words are concerned. Albert के पास पैसे नहीं थे कि वो पार्टी अरेंज कर पाए या लंच या डिनर अरेंज कर पाए. But he pretended he had. Pretended क्या होता है बेटे, पहले भी मैंने बताया कि जो रियलिटी में सिचुएशन नहीं होती उसको हम फिक्टिशियसली हाईलाइट करते हैं. यानी कि जो पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं होती उसको हम फिक्टिशियसली हाईलाइट करते हैं कि पॉसिबिलिटी है. तो उसने प्रिटेंड किया कि ही हैड, कि हाँ उसके पास पैसे हैं, वो पार्टी अरेंज करेगा. एंड टुक यूरी आउट टू सपर. Automatically party was arranged. In that party, uh, three people were there: Dr. Will, Albert Einstein, and Yuri. So supper, you will have to look at the meaning of this particular word. Supper, bete note down in the register or the diary of your brain. Supper beta hota hai light last meal of the day. Note it. और डिनर क्या होता है, यू विल हैव टू लुक. डिनर इज हैवी लास्ट मील ऑफ द डे. यानी कि यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस पर्टिकुलर वर्ड इन अ वेरी सेंसिबल वे. यानी आखिरी मील होता वो भी डिनर टाइप ही है, लेकिन जब लाइट खाते हैं हम कुछ, तो he was not with the sufficient amount to arrange that party, so that is why he had arranged supper. यानी कि light last meal of the day. I think crystal clear. You are able to look at the difference between supper and dinner. It's crystal clear. There is no doubt so far as this particular word is concerned. You have studied this particular word in standard 10th also. Lesson 1, the letter to God. I think there is no doubt in that. So now look at the next. If we look at the next, that is next page, you will have to look at page number 30. Page number 30 will start with the action of Einstein. Immediately had shown that particular certificate to Yuri. And you will be able to observe the response of Yuri here. Just look at line by line explanation. Isn't it wonderful? He said after showing Yuri the certificate. So was very happy at that particular moment. Immediately he had shown that particular certificate to his cousin Yuri. तो साथ में उसने क्या ऐड किया इंटेरोगेटिव में कि ये अमेजिंग नहीं है क्या? Isn't it wonderful? He wanted to highlight that particular point that really this particular certificate will make the things wonderful. And he wanted to look at the positivity of that particular medical certificate, because at any cost he wanted to quit the school. So that is why he was very excited at this particular moment. Now look at the next. Yes, it's fine. Yuri agreed. 6 months is a period, good period. Here, Yuri was replying in positive. highlighting that particular point that really this particular medical certificate is okay, good. And again, he was adding to that particular point that 6 months is really a wonderful period. The I think sufficient period to just testify his luck. He wanted to highlight that particular point to Einstein कि Einstein ये जो 6 months का period है आपकी luck testification के लिए that will be very fine. He wanted to highlight that particular point in a very decent way. This way you won't actually be leaving the school. So if the worst comes to the worst, you will be able to come back and carry on for your diploma. Now again, a few words were added by Yuri. He wanted to highlight that particular point कि इस तरीके से यानी कि जो medical certificate है that will be very useful for him. Actual sense of term में he would not be just looking at the just quitting the school. ये जो medical certificate है एक leave के लिए reference है. तो 6 months में अपने luck को testify कर लेगा Einstein तो. So if the worst comes to the worst, just listen these words. Already the condition is critical. Because why is the condition critical? Because here Einstein is just wasting his time and energy. He is least interested in education system of school. Or worst comes to worst, you will have to look at this particular point कि आगे आने वाले time में भी अगर कुछ negativity होगा तो यानी फ्यूचर में भी अगर he would not never be successful, then would be just able to attend the school after 6 months. तो ये तो एक लीव अप्लाई किया ना, तो he wanted to highlight that particular point and carry on for your diploma. So you wanted to highlight that particular point. He would again be able to look at the same, that he would again be able to continue with his diploma. I think you are crystal clear so far as these words of Yuri are concerned. यहाँ पे कह रहा है कि अगर कुछ critical होगा तो automatically there will not be any negativity. 6 months के बाद फिर तो diploma यानी कि ज्वाइन कर सकता है जर्मन स्कूल में ही. कि जब लीव अप्लाई करते हैं मेडिकल लीव, ऑटोमेटिकली वी आर एबल टू लुक एट द थिंग्स फॉर दैट टाइम पीरियड. अगर 6 months की मेडिकल लीव है तो उसके बाद उसको डिप्लोमा वो दोबारा ज्वाइन कर सकता था. अगर वहां जर्मनी में जाके कॉलेज में उसको एडमिशन ना मिल पाती या उसके साथ पॉजिटिव उसको रेफरेंस ना मिलता, पॉजिटिव रिस्पॉन्स ना मिलता अपने एक्शंस का. जस्ट लुक एट द नेक्स्ट. I will never go back to that place, Albert assured him. I'm going to take this certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. So just look at this particular point. Wanted to highlight very fine point. यानी कि यहाँ बहुत इरिटेशन फील कर रहा है जब यूरी ने उसको कहा कि यार अगर तू सक्सेसफुल नहीं भी होएगा 6 months के बाद तो ऐसा करियो दोबारा को स्कूल में ज्वाइन कर लियो. Now just look at the assurance given by Albert at that particular point. तो ये point साथ में highlight करता है कि ये स्कूल जो Albert दोबारा स्कूल को ज्वाइन करना नहीं चाहता था. Just assured that particular point that he would never just join the school again. कि मैं दोबारा नहीं आऊंगा इस स्कूल में चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए. He wanted to highlight that particular point. I'm going to take the certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. He wanted to highlight that particular point that tomorrow he would show that medical certificate to the head teacher. Head teacher, you are able to look at this particular term. यानी कि we look at schools of Germany, so we are able to look at head teacher. यानी कि इसको headmistress या headmaster बोला जाता है. यहाँ पे headmaster के लिए यूज किया गया है हेड टीचर. कहते हैं कल मैं ये मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट उनको यानी कि दिखाऊंगा हेड टीचर को, एंड दैट विल बी द एंड ऑफ इट, एंड श्योरली ही वुड जस्ट ग्रांट लीव ऑफ 6 months. यानी कि 6 months means he would never ever be able to look at the school again. So he wanted to highlight कि कल मैं अपने जो हेड टीचर है उसको मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट यानी कि दिखाऊंगा और प्रोड्यूस करूंगा और वो मुझे लीव ग्रांट कर देंगे. Just look at the next. Don't forget to get a reference in writing from your mathematics teacher first. Yuri reminded him. Just look at this particular sentence. Yuri, his cousin, reminded him का मतलब होता है याद दिलाना. उसने याद दिलाया कि आइंस्टाइन, don't forget, भूलना मत. क्या मत भूलना? To get a reference in writing from your maths teacher, Mr. Coach. कहते हैं कि अपने मैथ्स टीचर से मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट लेना मत भूलना. He wanted to highlight that particular point in a very systematic way. देखिए जाने से पहले, क्विट करने से पहले रेफरेंस जरूर ले लेना मिस्टर कोच से, वरना फ्यूचर में तेको किसी कॉलेज में एडमिशन नहीं मिलेगी. यानी कि यू हैव स्टडीड दिस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट इन द प्रीवियस लेक्चर्स. याद दिलाया यूरी ने हमको. Mr. Coach willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. So I have already told you people that Mr. Coach used to like Einstein because he was very good in maths. Maths was his favorite subject. He was able to learn that subject from the core of his heart. तो इस कारण मिस्टर कोच willingly होता है, I think happily. तो उन्होंने मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट यानी कि रेफरेंस दे दिया. जैसा वो वर्ड्स चाहता था कि रेफरेंस दो, he was ready to give. यानी मिस्टर कोच was ready to give reference. Now just look at the words of Mr. Coach. Inverted commas. If I say I can't teach you anymore, and probably you will soon be able to teach me, will that be all right? He asked. Just look at the words of Mr. Coach. मिस्टर कोच क्या कह रहे हैं यहाँ पे? कहते हैं कि आइंस्टाइन, कि अगर मैं डिक्लेयर कर दूं इस पॉइंट को कि यू आर वेरी परफेक्ट इन मैथमेटिक्स एंड प्रोबेबली होता है परहैप्स, शायद, यू विल सून बी एबल टू टीच मी. यानी ये वर्ड्स कुछ ज्यादा ही इनफॉर्मल है. जस्ट लुक एट दीज इनफॉर्मल वर्ड्स. कहते हैं कि अगर मैं डिक्लेयर कर दूं उस रेफरेंस में कि अब मैं आपको पढ़ाने के काबिल नहीं हूं आइंस्टाइन, क्या पढ़ाना, तेरी नॉलेज इतनी हो चुकी है, और शायद यू विल सून बी एबल टू टीच मी, कि बड़ी जल्दी तू मुझे पढ़ाएगा. आई थिंक जस्ट लुक एट द ग्लोइंग रेफरेंस वर्ड्स, इनफॉर्मल वर्ड्स, इट्स नॉट अ फॉर्मल टाइप ऑफ. विल दैट बी ऑल राइट? टू मेक क्वेरी कि आइंस्टाइन ये ठीक रहेंगे ये वर्ड्स. जस्ट लुक एट, ही आस्क्ड एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन से उन्होंने पूछा कि बेटा अगर मैं लिख दूं कि यू आर द परफेक्ट मास्टर ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स एंड परहैप्स you will soon be able to teach him with his perfect knowledge, will that be very fine reference? So now just look at the response of Albert. That's saying to my son, Albert said. Just look at the reply of Albert. He told Mr. Koch that that saying too much. No, sir, I think these words are, I think, नॉट वेरी फॉर्मल, कि ज्यादा ही कुछ कह रहे हो. मतलब ज्यादा ही कुछ हम फॉर्मल वे से कहते हैं, फॉर्मल वे में कहते हैं, तो इसका मतलब क्या, हम फन क्रिएट कर रहे होते हैं. और अगर ये ऐसा सर्टिफिकेट कहीं बाहर दिखाओ भी, द थिंग्स आर नॉट, नो स्टूडेंट कैन टीच एनी टीचर. तो कहते सर आप कुछ ज्यादा ही है, कुछ है, इतना तो नहीं मुझे चाहिए. he wanted to highlight that particular point because he was very sensitive guy. बहुत समझदार बच्चा था. सिर्फ उसकी कमजोरी क्या थी? he could never ever be able to cram. और secondly, he used to just argument in front of teacher boldly. Now just look at the next. Inverted commas, it's only the truth. But all right, I will put it more seriously. Just look at the response of Mr. Coach. He wanted to highlight that particular point कि Einstein बेटा, it is a fact, not a fiction. तो ये तो सच्चाई है बेटा कि तेरी नॉलेज मैथ्स में बहुत ज्यादा है. कि he wanted to highlight that particular point that he was perfect master of maths. यहाँ पे मिस्टर कोच हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं बेटा, कुछ ज्यादा वर्ड्स तो नहीं है, वो तो रियलिटी है. फिर भी कहते बट ऑल राइट, ठीक है, अगर तेरे को ज्यादा लग रहे हैं ये वर्ड्स की मैंने कुछ इनफॉर्मल नोट लिखा है, तो आई विल पुट इट मोर सीरियसली. जस्ट आई विल कन्वर्ट इनटू फॉर्मल लैंग्वेज. उन्होंने कहा कि मैं फॉर्मल वर्ड्स में इसको कन्वर्ट कर दूंगा. उन्होंने ये बात क्लियर कर दी कि ही वाज परफेक्ट मास्टर ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स. अगर टीचर इतना कह देता है ना तो इट्स बिग थिंग, और वो भी जेन्युइन टीचर. और अगर फिक्टिशियसली अगर कोई टीचर कहता भी है, ये भी पॉइंट नोट कर लेना, तो कॉलेज क्या कहीं पे भी एडमिशन नहीं मिलता. तो यहाँ मिस्टर कोच वाज वेरी सीरियस टीचर. वो मैथ्स में अच्छा था इसलिए डिक्लेरेशन उन्होंने की कि ही इज द परफेक्ट मास्टर ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स. I think you are crystal clear. It's not easy to give reference for anybody. So I think you are able to understand this particular point. Next step is, it was still a glowing reference, and Mr. Koch made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. Just look at this particular point. It was still a glowing reference. I think Mr. Koch used formal words to highlight that medical certificate. तो वो जो glowing क्या होता है बेटा, positive reference you have to look at. Glowing here means you will have to look at this particular word in a very sincere way, that is positive reference. जब हम positive way से किसी को reference देते हैं, very nice, decent, up to mark, you can use any word for this. Next step is, now look at the next step of the same chapter. तो उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी रेफरेंस लिख के दी फॉर्मल वर्ड्स में. Now just look at this particular point. And Mr. Koch made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college. Mr. Koch had just highlighted that particular point that Albert was the perfect knowledge to get admission in a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. Mr. Koch has highlighted that this particular fellow is the perfect master of mathematics, and he is the perfect knowledge for the entry in college for higher studies of maths. I think crystal clear up to this particular point. This is a reference given by Mr. Koch to Einstein for his bright future, so that he could be able to get admission in college of Italy, where his parents were residing. I think crystal clear up to this particular point. There is no doubt in that. I'm sorry you're leaving us. Although you're wasting your time in my class, he said. Just look at the words of Mr. Koch. Certificate और reference देने के बाद उन्होंने क्या बोला? Just look at the words of Mr. Koch. तो बेटे मुझे बहुत अफसोस है कि तुम यहाँ हमारे स्कूल को छोड़ के जा रहे हो. I'm sorry you are leaving us. Yeah. Just Mr. Koch was highlighting his sadness because very fine guy, very fine student was leaving the school. Very fine student means very perfect in his subject. बहुत दर्द होता है अगर अच्छा बच्चा कोई छोड़ के जाता है टीचर को, अगर बच्चा सिंसियर होता है, ब्राइट होता है. Although you're wasting your time in my class. अब देखिए दूसरा वर्ड क्या उन्होंने यूज किया. Although you are wasting time in my class. फिर भी कहते चाहे तुम मेरी क्लास में टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे थे. Yani here Mr. Koch wanted to highlight that particular point that he was wasting his time and energy in maths class also. यानी कि उसका नॉलेज लेवल इतना अप टू मार्क हो चुका था, he was not in the requirement of that particular class. So that is why Mr. Coach was highlighting that particular point, that he was wasting his time and energy in his classes. तो साथ में वो सैड है, अपसेट है कि एक अच्छा बच्चा, एक ब्रिलियंट बच्चा लिविंग द स्कूल. I think crystal clear. There is no doubt so far as this particular sentence is concerned. You are crystal clear. Now just look at the next. It's almost the only class where I'm not wasting my time, said Albert. But how did you know I'm living, sir? Just look at the words of Albert. Here Albert wanted to highlight that particular point, that was the only class where he could never waste even a single minute. कि ऐसी क्लास यही थी मैथ्स की जिसमें यानी कि वो अपना टाइम वेस्ट नहीं कर रहा है, यहाँ प्रेजेंट टेंस में हाईलाइट किया. लेकिन जब इन्वर्टेड कॉमा से डायरेक्ट से इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच करते हैं, वी विल हैव टू एक्सप्लेन इन पास्ट टेंस. यू हैव टू लुक एट. तो ये रिपोर्टिंग हमें कैसे करनी है, यू विल हैव टू हाईलाइट दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. तो यहाँ पे कहते आइंस्टाइन वांटेड टू हाईलाइट दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट, दैट ही वाज नॉट वेस्टिंग हिज टाइम एंड एनर्जी इन मैथ्स क्लास. Look at very fine words of Albert. But how did you know I am living, sir? Oh, he had added a few more words in that particular dialogue. It's like, okay, sir, he wanted to make query again. It is in direct speech. He wanted to make query respectfully that how had he known that he was living. यानी वो हाईलाइट करना चाह रहे हैं एल्बर्ट जी कि सर आपको कैसे मालूम था कि मैं स्कूल छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ. You have to look at the next dialogue. You wouldn't have asked me for this reference otherwise. I thought you would wonder. Dash dash dash. Just look at beautiful words of Mr. Coach. कहते बेटा अगर तू छोड़ के ना जा रहा होता स्कूल, you wouldn't have asked me for this reference otherwise. तो तुमने मुझे इस रेफरेंस के बारे में कहा ही ना होता. He wanted to highlight that particular point, that he would never be able to demand that reference if he would not be leaving that particular school. अगर वो स्कूल छोड़ के ना जा रहा होता, कहते कि फिर आप डिमांड करते ही ना आइंस्टाइन जी कि मुझे रेफरेंस लेटर बना के दो. Just look at the words of Einstein. Inverted commas. I thought you would wonder dash dash dash. Inverted commas close. Here, Albert Einstein wanted to highlight the point that he had thought that Mr. Coach would be at the extreme level of surprise to listen that particular point that he was leaving the school. Now I think you are able to understand. Listen in Hindi also. यहाँ पे एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन कहते हैं कि मैंने सोचा सर कि आप बहुत ज्यादा छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ. Now just look at the next. There is nothing to wonder about Einstein. I knew you were going to leave before you knew yourself. Just listen the words of Mr. Coach, maths teacher. क्या कह रहे हैं उसके मैथ्स टीचर कि बेटा कोई हैरानी वाली तो बात ही नहीं है आइंस्टाइन जी. Again he was adding to that particular point that he was in the knowledge of that particular point, that very soon Einstein would leave the school, would quit the school before Einstein had in the knowledge of that point himself. हिंदी में सुन लीजिए, थोड़ा सा टफ है. यहाँ पे कहते हैं कि बेटा हैरान होने वाली तो कोई बात ही नहीं है. मैं तो तेरे से पहले जानता था, तुझे भी ये पॉइंट पता नहीं था. मैं तो तब जज कर गया था कि मैंने जज कर लिया था कि तू बहुत जल्दी स्कूल छोड़ के जा रहा है. I think you are able to understand the point. The genuine teachers are able to understand the emotions of students because Mr. Coach was genuine teacher. And moreover, that guy was very perfect in mathematics. Einstein was the perfect master of that particular subject because he was keenly interested to study that subject. I think crystal clear up to this particular point. There is no doubt in that. Now, next step, Albert was puzzled. What did the teacher mean? Just look at this particular point. Albert was puzzled. मिस्टर कोच के वर्ड सुनने के बाद एल्बर्ट जो थे was puzzled, was confused. सोचने लगे एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन कि टीचर के कहने का मतलब क्या है. ये टीचर ने वर्ड यूज किए हैं कि मुझे बेटा तेरे से पहले ही पता था कि तू स्कूल छोड़ के जाएगा, अभी तेरे को भी ये पॉइंट नहीं पता था. यानी कि इसका मतलब मिस्टर कोच was really a very fine teacher. He was a very fine facilitator. He was able to read the emotions of Einstein. तो आई थिंक क्रिस्टल क्लियर तभी उन्होंने डिक्लेयर किया कि बेटे तेरे से पहले मैं जानता था कि तू स्कूल छोड़ के जाएगा ही जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे ये वर्ड सुन के एल्बर्ट बिकेम पजल्ड, कंफ्यूज. सोचने लग गया कि मिस्टर कोच के कहने का ये मतलब क्या था. Just look at the next. He soon found out, but he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head. He soon found out. बहुत टफ है, जरा समझने की कोशिश करना बेटा. Very soon he was able to recognize the point. Which point? Point of highlighting the basic point. यानी कि ये जो point use किया था कि इन्होंने मिस्टर कोच ने कि मैं पहले ही जानता था तेरे से जानने से पहले कि तू स्कूल को क्विट करके जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे उसको पहले तो पजल हो गया, कंफ्यूज हो गया उस पॉइंट को लेके, लेकिन वेरी अर्ली ही वाज एबल टू रिकॉग्नाइज दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट, इज एबल टू सर्च आउट द बेसिक्स ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट. But he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head teacher. He was summoned to the head's room. अब वो सोच रहा था, already you have studied that particular point, that he wanted to just see his head teacher with that medical certificate. इंटरव्यू का मतलब वो बातचीत करना चाहता था अपने हेडमास्टर से, जो स्कूल के हेडमास्टर थे जर्मन स्कूल के, उनसे बात चाहता था. लेकिन वो सोच ही रहा था कि मैं सर के ऑफिस में जाऊं. He was summoned to the head's room. तो उसको बुलावा आ गया. Summoned क्या होता है? बेसिकली ये वर्ड कोर्ट्स में यूज किया जाता है जब किसी को फेस टू फेस मीटिंग के लिए बुलाया जाता है किसी केस से कंसर्न. लेकिन यहाँ मतलब यही है कि he was called by the head teacher. Summoned होता है to call upon. You have to write the meaning of this. Already इस वर्ड का डीप मीनिंग मैंने बता दिया है कि ये जो कोर्ट्स होती हैं उसमें ये वर्ड यूज किया जाता है. जब हम किसी को बुलाते हैं गवाही के लिए किसी केस से कंसर्न, तो एक लेटर के थ्रू मैसेज भेजा जाता है. लेकिन ये वर्ड यूज किया गया है किस पॉइंट के लिए कि एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन को हेड टीचर ने बुलाया, यानी पियोन मैसेज लेके आया होगा कि हेड टीचर आपसे मिलना चाहते हैं. He wanted to meet Einstein in his office. Head's room, I think you are crystal clear. So, I think you are very